Today, if you want to change your complexion, you walk into a Sephora, drop $40 on a foundation, and wash it off at the end of the day. We use makeup to cover our perceived flaws because the beauty industry tells us that a perfectly even, glowing skin tone is the ultimate standard of health. But in the late 19th century, makeup wasn't just frowned upon, it was considered scandalous. If you wanted to change your complexion, you couldn't just paint it on. You had to change it from the inside out, and the absolute pinnacle of Victorian beauty, looking like you were literally on the verge of death. To achieve this ghostly, translucent, highly sought-after aesthetic, advertisers offered women a miracle pill, a delicate, chalky little wafer that promised to clear blemishes, erase freckles, and give them the aristocratic pallor required to land a wealthy husband. The secret ingredient? Arsenic, literal rat poison. Welcome back to Let's Make It Interesting. Today we are uncovering the terrifying history of arsenic complexion wafers, how the beauty industry capitalized on a deadly aesthetic, marketed a lethal poison as a daily supplement, and created a biological trap that women couldn't escape. To understand why millions of women willingly swallowed arsenic, we have to look at the incredibly messed up beauty standards of the Victorian era. During the 1800s, pale skin was the ultimate status symbol. If you were tanned or had a ruddy complexion, it meant you were working class. It meant you labored outside in the sun. But if you were ghostly white, it meant you were wealthy enough to sit inside your parlor all day. But it went even darker than that. The Victorians deeply romanticized a disease called consumption, what we now know as tuberculosis. Because tuberculosis caused extreme weight loss, dilated eyes, and a stark, pale complexion with a slight feverish flush to the cheeks, society actually branded the symptoms of this fatal illness as the peak of feminine beauty. They literally fetishized the look of dying. Women who were naturally healthy, who had freckles or color in their cheeks, were desperate to look fragile and sickly. Because in that era, a woman's entire financial survival depended on securing a wealthy husband. And wealthy men wanted fragile, pale wives. The beauty industry saw an entire generation of women desperate to look anemic, and they knew exactly what to sell them. Enter Dr. Campbell's safe arsenic complexion wafers. Now, the Victorians were not stupid. They knew what arsenic was. It was widely used as a cheap rat poison and an industrial dye. They knew it was highly toxic. So how did advertisers convince women to eat it? Through the sheer power of branding and the word safe. Promised that the arsenic was safe and effective for treating various ailments. The advertisements were masterclasses in manipulation. They promised that the arsenic was scientifically measured and completely harmless. They claimed it would purify the blood, clear the skin of all eruptions, and leave a flawless alabaster complexion. They sold these little chalky pills in elegant, discreet boxes. They were heavily advertised in women's magazines right alongside dresses and corsets. And the terrifying part, the wafers actually worked. If a woman took them regularly, her freckles would fade. Her skin would become breathtakingly pale and translucent. But it wasn't a cosmetic miracle. It was systemic organ failure. Here is the horrifying biological reality of what these advertisers were actually selling. Arsenic does not purify your blood. It destroys it. The reason the women's skin became so starkly white was that the arsenic was systematically killing off their red blood cells. The aristocratic pallor they were so proud of was literally just severe chemically induced anemia. Their organs were starving for oxygen. But the most evil part of this marketing scam wasn't just the poison itself. It was the dependency. Arsenic is highly addictive to the human body. Once a woman started taking the Complexion wafers, her body adapted to the toxin. If she tried to stop taking them, the withdrawal symptoms were catastrophic. The moment the arsenic left her system, her skin would react violently. She would break out in massive, painful lesions, hives, and boils. She would experience severe vomiting, muscle cramps, and exhaustion. The advertisers knew this. They engineered a product where the cure for the horrific withdrawal symptoms was simply to buy another box of wafers. Women were trapped. They had to keep slowly poisoning themselves just to maintain their appearance and keep the painful side effects at bay. They became lifelong captive customers to a product that was actively killing them. So how did the industry get away with this for decades? First, there was absolutely no FDA. Just like the radioactive face creams that would come half a century later, there was no regulatory body stopping corporations from putting poison in a pretty box and calling it skincare. Second, the beauty industry relied on the deep shame surrounding vanity. Victorian women were told they had to be naturally beautiful, but they were severely judged if they were caught trying to alter their appearance. Using cosmetics was viewed as deceptive and sinful. So, women hid their arsenic wafers. They took them in secret. When the systemic poisoning finally caught up to them, leading to kidney failure, nervous system collapse, and death, the real cause was almost never recorded. Doctors would list the cause of death as wasting disease or heart failure. The true number of women who died from cosmetic arsenic poisoning will never be known, because their silence was the ultimate shield for the corporations who sold it to them. The companies pocketed the profits, and the women took the secret to their graves. It is easy to look back at the Victorians and think they were foolish for eating rat poison just to look pale. But are we really that different today? Every time a company sells an unregulated detox tea that wrecks your digestive system, or an influencer pushes an unverified supplement to help you achieve an impossible standard, they are using the exact same playbook Dr. Campbell used in 1890. The ingredients have changed, but the scam remains exactly the same. If you want to keep untangling the lies we've been sold, hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and tell me in the comments what historical scam we should expose next. See you in the next one.